I'm Nicole. Have my lovely co-host again today, Tomas and Mana. We also have the mad scientist of Sudowrite, John Creasaw here. I'm hoping he will chime in because I know he loves the feature we're about to go over. We're going to split this class up in halves. We're going to start off using the write feature because a lot of changes have been made to that. And then we will focus on, for the second half of class, we will focus entirely on beats and ways to enhance your beats. When we say the write features, we mean these: auto write and guided write. And I love using auto write. It's always been one of my favorite things. I actually love writing with it more than I love Story Bible. The issue was up until about a month ago, when you used auto write, it didn't see your story information. It could only read it back 1,000 words and take into account what was in the document. So it might throw in some new characters. It might describe your characters wrong, put them in the wrong setting, things like that. Now they made some changes, thankfully. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong because I still don't have it very memorized. But so now AutoWrite will look at your genre and style. Before, we had to put style and stuff in these key details, which holds 60 to 75 words, something like that. But now it looks at your genre, your style. It looks at your characters, but there's a little but in there. And it looks at the outline that is linked. For characters in the outline linked, it will look at this one, and since this is linked, but if I was in a blank document, of course, obviously there's no outline section for it to look at, so it would not reference the outline at all. But we'll look at the one that's linked. Now, as far as characters, they need to be named. You can do in your outline section right here, I can put a list of characters, characters present, characters in scene, just characters, however you want it to word it, cast list. I can name the characters here. That way, if they're not mentioned in the beats or in my document as I start writing, it could still pull them in. That is how it references the characters. And again, John, I've been working on nonfiction a lot lately, so I haven't had time to really dive in the way I want to with this. Correct me if I'm wrong on anything. But yeah, so it can read the outline that is linked in your document, and your characters do need to be named, and then it can reference them. And it will reference them from the character box. As long as they are named, it can look for that information. John, anything you want to add on that?
That is it, and that is a superpower, being able to reference your characters in that summary, and they pull out of characters based on that. If you start mentioning them, if you start writing a character in that you didn't mention in the summary, but you just added it into the last 1,000 words, it'll pick it up there too. So you can be careful with that. But the character box itself then becomes much more of a persona, everybody in the story kind of box in a way.
Like you said, us, if you had a character in chapter 4 and you go back to edit chapter 1, will it pull it back to chapter 1 even though you don't want
They
them to
don't
meet?
see, the chapters don't
No,
see each other. Changes you
So,
make in chapters themselves, it doesn't see.
if it's linked to chapter 3, it's only looking at chapter 3.
Before when I
Show
used
where the linking is. Sorry.
right here. So we can change it up. I can update it. I can unlink this, update it to a different chapter. And this is something I'll be playing around too. John and I did a video where he walked me through his ellipses method. I'm not even going to go into it. He had to walk me through it twice in that hour. But this is something I'm going to be using the next story I write. God, I have so many plans for experimenting. That's what we tend to do. We learn how to do things one way, then we start experimenting to learn another way to teach y'all. But in my next story, I am actually going to write my entire story in one box because the chapters don't talk to each other. So I will be using John's ellipses method to do that, removing beats as I need the room for words and everything, and we'll be unlinking and linking here. So I will be recording the sessions of me working through that to share on my YouTube channel. And
Yeah, I look forward to that.
so that's it. Just you can change it up right here. So I'm just going to I just want to get my outline chapter ready, know which one I'm going to do. But I don't want any focus right here because I'm not generating beat. We'll leave it this way. We'll play around with it. We'll do these two chapters in auto write, and then we'll dive over into beats. don't need that. I'm just thinking of what I need because I know how I'm fixing to work inside right. So it's like a if you think about it in a different way, and I'm just gonna do a blank document as an example. So using auto write, let me make sure my settings are where I want them. I like you can change the number of chords. I like 2 and 150, and I'll go ahead and leave it at best pros. John, which is your favorite for a write feature? Or Tomas, do you have a favorite?
It depends on how
Which
nasty
model?
I'm looking for,
Ah,
but either unfiltered or best pros.
yeah, I'll stick with best pros. Yeah, please mute yourselves with background noise. I love y'all to interact and ask questions, but please mute with the background noise
I like pulling creativity down to least.
to drag it out. Yeah. I typically leave it in the middle, but I'm going to play with that too. I'm just going to give you an example, just a completely different story to start writing. This is just working with auto write. I would keep going, writing the story until I hit a point where, okay, I need some help. I don't know what to do now. And I would hit auto write. And then it's going to come up with some stuff. Again, this is just to give y'all an idea of how auto write and guided write work before we delve into the details. And it's slow. And then all at once. Okay. I would insert this, obviously, making sure I liked it. Oh, I like that. Okay. So I would insert, then I would keep writing again until I needed more help. And then there's also the option of guided write. So guided write is where I could tell it, okay, I need to change up this flow because auto write tends to keep going in whatever direction you're going. Again, it reads back 1,000 words. So it just keeps going with that momentum. It typically doesn't want to veer much. If I need a new plot point or to approach a new plot point, I will go to guided write, tell it what I need to happen. Spaceship explodes or something, whatever turning point I need, I could put that here. If I don't know anything, I could ask it for suggestions. I think Tomas and John agree with me that I don't think we like the suggestions. I know I don't. They're typically just not anything I'd want to use.
I've
It'd
never
be
found
like the
them helpful.
creative yeah, it's like the creative sliders all the way over to the right. They are useful in terms of if you don't know how to write a suggestion, there's examples for how to write a suggestion, a guide, but it's again, it usually veering off in some wacky plot change.
What were your thoughts, Tomas?
Pretty much just I was just gonna say I've never found them helpful. They take me too far out of the story, so I just put in my own suggestion.
Yeah. I do know one author who, and he was a really experienced user. He only used guided write. He never used auto, so he had mastered guided write. That's examples of how auto write and guided write work. Just to get you familiar with the slang, if we say the write feature, we mean these auto write, guided write, and then the things that you can do in the right settings. Remember, these settings only affect auto write and guided write. They don't affect the rewrite or describe. So if you have the one card here and all that, just keep that in mind. Rewrite has its own little drop down number of cards to select from.
Nicole, could you suggest an example for a tone shift? I just don't know what to use it for.
This would be, let's say your characters are having fun, party and everything, something happens, and you want to turn it to more ominous, or then it approaches a romantic encounter and you'd want to switch it up to one of those. That's how I use it. I will say I don't think it switches up the tone enough. So instead of this, I would use it, but I wouldn't rely on it. I would use it just to guide, okay, now I'm going to romantic, sensual, whatever, but I would rely on my style box more now that auto write is connected to the style box. But it's essentially just a change. So the AI knows when it's generating, it knows to focus on wording and everything that fits this tone, whatever tone you choose. Any questions on how to use it? We're going to dive into how to use it with Story Bible, but does everybody understand what auto write and guided write do? And this is great for short stories. My short stories, I will just, the ones that I have a really good idea of, I will just start writing it and love to use auto write. So now let's make sure. That's why I say it's a different mode of thinking whenever you're adjusting your outline for auto write versus if you're adjusting it for Story Bible, in my opinion. Again, somebody feel free to offer contradictory advice.
I would say it's also good for transitions. If there isn't a good transition between one set of beats and the next set of beats.
Definitely. I love using that too. Yeah. I like to use Auto-Write when I'm making my edits is when I do my transition scenes. If it doesn't read right, oh, this needs a transition scene. And typically, and I would probably still use it this way because it works so well and easily, I use the key details box. So I will say what just happened, what's going on right now, where my characters are or what they're doing, and then what needs to happen. Just really succinct, concise sentences. And that works really well.
And for something like that, though, I also think about expand if I'm looking to transition.
Yeah. Because y'all don't forget, y'all can actually, and we can play around with this actually after we start writing, y'all could do instructions in square brackets in that document and it'll follow those. I'm going to start with the detective being at his home. And then it will go into the crime scene. Let's make this 8. I don't want this yet. Changing up these wordings so it fits the vision for the story. Now I have my chapter 1. I want to open up with him in his home real quick, and then we'll do a glimpse of the crime scene. And after these two, we will dive into beats. Oh, I need to do my characters. Actually, Detective Jameson is the only character really present in this. So I think this is good. Let's go for it. John, since it shows it's still linked, it will keep it linked, right? It will keep it in its memory, though the box isn't here, correct?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
doesn't care about the chapter
Good.
writer right now.
Perfect. All right. So we have Detective Jameson at his home. And let's see how well this does. Trying to keep my punctuation in mind here. All right. So I'm just going to pick, let me make sure. I'm going to do auto write. So it should, we're at his home and it should have him receive a phone call about the murder case and everything as it goes.
Nicole, I have a quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Reference to when you're working on the characters in terms of stages, like when they change from Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3,
Mhm.
and how normally you change it throughout your character box. Is that something that you do in the GPT, where you just ask the GPT to give me the character's description based on Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3? And what's your process for that for people who
Oh,
don't know?
when I plan my story,
Yeah.
I do work with ChatGPT. Let's see if I have it here. Okay, so I do work with ChatGPT to get my overall character stuff going.
Mm-hmm.
So this is for each book. And then inside each book, I do work with Chat and get their arc for each book. So I have this as my base point. So in Act 1, after I planned everything, they should be around this area. By Act 4, they should be around this area. So this just helps guide everything for me. And if I absolutely have no clue what I need to change their description to, I know I can grab something from here. But this is my starting point. I'll typically copy it into my character box inside Sudowrite and then change it, adjust it on the fly. Okay, this is where they are right now. I need to just change this wording a bit. But mostly my characters, the main thing I typically worry about is changing up little thoughts. Like for my
Mm-hmm.
Slayer story, for instance, when she's raised to hate vampires. So I'm going to have a little sentence there of when she starts to doubt, she starts to question everything she's been taught. When she starts to become friends with the vampires, I'll just have a little sentence there just showing their state of mind.
Yeah.
It's my preferred way. How about you? I know you do a lot of long books.
Yeah, because I'm trying out different things, especially with the character development GPT that I created. I'm trying to find like the best way to have it follow my character development and character arcs when it comes to implementing the change and the direction of like how the character's motivation shifts. So I just wanted to see what your process was like so I may could
Gotcha.
implement that as well.
Yeah. And I do have that prompt that should be in the workflows and tip stock. It actually might not be. I don't know. I can give you my prompt though that I
Yes.
use for ChatGPT to say, okay, break down this character's arc for me.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Okay. Remind me
Thanks.
about that.
Yes.
All right. So we have two things here for Detective Jameson. Obviously, if I was working on this, I would go through, make sure I liked it. Typically, I like to actually combine. I can't tell you how many times I like the first half of one and the second half of another for my two cards. Took a bitter sip of his coffee. Oh, so see, I didn't mention the boy. Still see the boy's face. And in my character box, so the only place, because it wasn't mentioned in the outline either. Let me just double check. So here in the character box, I mentioned did not catch this killer in time and a child was murdered. So I don't mention that at all here. And let me double check. And yeah, and so it's not mentioned in the summary here. So that tells you how well it pays attention to the character box and things. So that keep that in mind.
The other thing to keep in mind and to change up when you just make decisions like that, that's a decision. It's a boy's face. In the box, it says it's a child. Here, it says it's a boy. So you would probably want to update the box to reflect anything you
Very.
pull into chapter 1.
Yep, that's a good point.
Nicole,
Yes,
I
sir.
have a question. Could you go back to the character box, please?
Yeah. I was just
Uh,
like chat this.
just display for a minute your character box. You have quite a lot of details there, but there isn't unlimited space in the character box, is there?
Correct.
So you don't have all your story's characters in that box at the same time. Is that right?
Oh no, I leave my characters in. If it means getting rid of details and stuff, I'll get rid of. I am not one of those that takes characters out and put them back in. I hate that. Oh wow, why is my character box going on forever?
Because what I find is I made a rather detailed description for each character. Let's say 8 lines
Mhm.
as an average, and it will only accept say 8 characters. So for a
Right.
long story, in my case, that's not enough, and I find myself limited in
Yeah.
space.
So right now it is limited to 700 words, but they have been working. They are changing this and it will be soon. We don't have that timeline. There's a community hangout on March 1st. I highly recommend y'all attend that. That is typically when they demo new features or talk about plans for things. So if the new character box has not been released before then, I'm willing to bet we will have a good update and possibly a demonstration. I don't want to put Ryan on the spot, but I do also. So tune into the community hangout on March 1st. We may see that they have been working on some really good templates. And not only will
But
the character
separate,
box be upgraded, but the others will as well. But yeah,
But
if you do have that limited space right now, yes, go ahead and do the other people's methods of removing a character, only putting in what you need. It's just something we have to work with right now, but not much longer.
or else keep changing the contents of that box according to your chapter. You may not have all your characters working at the same in the same chapter, so you can keep replacing the characters in the
Correct.
character box.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That's what a lot of people do. Me, I don't like it. I just, once my characters are in the box, they stay there. I don't like to mess with it. Just again, that's just a workflow thing. But do whatever works for you. But yeah, with that unlimited character box coming soon, that's going to be a
Okay,
game changer for
thanks.
us. But still, and this depends on how our wording's going to be all. It depends on what the final concept looks like for the character box. But we still may possibly have to change things up. Again, Ryan showed us a mock-up. We would be able to put something in for.
per chapter or per
Sorry, I was trying to mute
assign this description to this chapters and
Right.
create
Yeah. So
character arc information inside it.
correct. It looked like now whether or not that's going to be the final version, I do not know. We try to keep y'all updated, but at the same time, we don't want y'all to run and say, Nicole said this, and now it's not happening. Things change. That's why I'm saying tune into that community hangout on March 1st. So you can get a better update from them directly from us. But yeah. But
But when
let's
you
just
have the
say,
room in there, you can use it.
and let's just say that ends up not happening. It would, for whatever reason, it couldn't work for them to do that arc in the template that they were doing. So that is something to keep in mind. If that isn't feasible for us to be able to do it all at once and the AI to say, oh, this character changes at this point, maybe that ends up just being something they can't make happen right now. We will still need to make sure we change this up as we go, as the character progresses in the story to keep it in line with where they
So
are.
Thomas points out that you can put some character arc information into the beats, but if we're talking about using auto, it doesn't look into the beats.
True. But let's see. Okay. Again, this isn't perfect. I would mess with it more, but I'm just going to continue so we can get to the beat section. I want to do one more section with Write though. What I'm going to do, what's that?
One more quick question about the characters, because you put them all in, so you don't have a problem with Sudowrite pulling in characters before you want them.
I do not,
We-
and we will go over that a lot in the beats up next.
Okay,
I'll
great.
show you what I do.
Thanks.
All right, so I'm going to test this out. Again, this isn't perfect. Y'all forgive me for my horrible writing right now. Not editing. I don't think we should have to say it, but let me say it. Edit to make the vision of the story work for what you want. But we did chapter 1. I'm happy with it. We're going to pretend I did all the editing. Now I want to change it up and move on to chapter 2. Let's see how well this works out. So in chapter 2, at chapter 1, he got the phone call. I could have actually carried this out. Ideally, I would carry this out another round of auto write for that phone call to happen. But now I've linked chapter 2, same document. I just linked chapter 2 here. So it should go to the crime scene. And let's do it. And I think my character arc prompt is in one of my books. I don't know. Tomas, I think you know my books better than I do. Do you remember the character arc prompt being in there?
I'll go double check real quick
dou-
because I'm pretty sure, but I just have it saved like so many times. It's hard for me to tell.
Okay.
I'll go check real quick.
No, don't worry about that. I will get it for y'all. Detective Jameson parked his car down the street from the crime scene. So you see the issue here, but this was my mistake. Again, we just rushing through this. He gets the call, then he's all of a sudden at the crime scene. So I need that transition more, but that is up to me as a writer to start guiding the AI to do what I want it to do. This is not the AI's fault. It's doing exactly what I told it to do. He's now where I told it he needed to be. But
It works really well. Can you stick it in and show us a way to stitch those together?
in this instance right here, let's use key details. It should read back, even though I'm repeating myself, it should read back and know he's already received that phone call.
And you're working with a length of card of 150 words.
Mhm.
Sometimes I go to 500 and just do 1 card, but I understand you like bashing the 2 together.
And two, since they made some changes, I have found actually I'm not 150 is good, but it's also so good that I am like, okay, I wish I had just a little bit more. I'm gonna bump it up to 200. I'm gonna close out my chat box. So if y'all need something, just let me know, please. It's I keep having to move it side to side. We know he already received the phone call. I'm telling it he receives a phone call about the murder. And in the next section, he goes to the crime scene. Here, I'm telling it he's finishing his coffee, shower, dress, and then heads out to the crime scene. So let's see how well this works. I'm going to put it right here. It should read back 1,000 words, up to 1,000 words, and that's plenty of room there. It should already know he's received the phone call. Let's see if it loops or anything, though. And this is also one of those instances, if it does loop, I'm not going to sit there and try to fight it. I'm just going to take what I like from it and put it where I need it. Sometimes we get caught up, myself included, we get caught up trying to force the AI to do something, spend 2, 3 hours on it when we could have just spent 30 minutes editing and doing things manually. Let's see. Nope, it did it good. Did not loop at all. God, this is good. Yes, I love it. I said I've always loved Write, but it was a pain. I had to choose between using Write or Story Bible because it didn't know my characters or my story information. And I had to shove everything what I could in key details. So this is awesome. Let me see, it goes right here. This was our original up here. Whoa, I don't know what it is. Sorry. Let's do that. This was our original. This was the second chapter run where he arrived at the crime scenes. Now I told it in key details what I needed to do for the transition scene. And he does just what I told him. Finished his coffee, showered. Oh, starts bringing in. I like that. And then he drives to the crime scene. It goes over. It blends in pretty well, in my opinion, except for nope. Wait,
Yeah, you need to chop out some of that.
yeah, because here he's arriving, but still, that's great. This is, and again, this is one of those things. I am not going to try to make the AI get this perfect. I'm better off spending the 5 minutes I need to just blend this in nicely, nice and neat. All right. So, any questions on auto write and guided write? John, would you like to add anything? And know since I know you've been playing with this so much.
I really like being able I love what you just showed us, how linking the chapters and the outline actually influences what AutoWrite is doing. Again, I tend to use longer because I'll do 500 and with some of the unfiltered stuff, and and just 1 card to have it feel more like the chapter generator and just build it as it goes. But I do like the bashing too. I think the big thing to keep remembering is that what we really wanna be able to do is just write the right thing faster and don't spend all of our time fighting the AI to write it right without our intervention.
All right. So, we're going to work on beats. Tomas, do you have it? Have you been playing with auto write?
Not really, but I just found it's chapter 12 of your book. But I can't figure out how to just cut it out of there right now.
Ah, gotcha.
As far as like the character thing.
Awesome. Thank you. Charlene, no, it's not an either or. Story Bible is, but you can also do both of them. Again, I love using AutoWrite. It just flows really well. So, in my opinion, those people who don't want to give the AI all of this control, like you want to do the majority of your writing, you just want the AI to chime in and help you every once in a while, I think you will prefer AutoWrite or guided write. Those who aren't good, they need that help. They just want to give the AI the details, let it go with it, and then make changes. you'll prefer Story Bible. But there's nothing saying I just ran chapter 1 using the auto write feature. Now we're about to run chapter 1 using Story Bible. I can turn around and combine those if I want. So you can use both of them. So
The method for writing, like, key details or guided is a little bit different from the beats. You use a lot of words in beats sometimes, and write and guided write tend to restrict to the number of words that you could use for those kinds of beats.
I just combined my chapters 1 and 2 since we did that for auto write 2, just to see. And I'm actually curious how this extra setting and location, if it's going to take that into account when it generates my beats. Let's do chapter 1. And I think it's really important too not to look at it as the either or. It's what fits in your flow. And I can change it up per story. Like I said, I mentioned auto write for my short stories, but Story Bible I would go to for my longer works. Now I can see myself going back to auto write for the longer works as well. But whatever just feels good to you, whatever you're getting the better results from, you feel more confident with, that is definitely what you should go to. I combine chapters 1 and 2. Let's see. Just want to look at the time and the settings. Let's see if it took that into account. Why is it present tense? Okay, so for whatever reason, the beats are in present tense. So these beats right here are very lean. They look thick because it's 2 sentences each, but you're not asking the AI to do much right here. He's waking up, turns off his alarm clock, sits up in bed. I can see this looping so easily because you're not asking the AI to do enough. Remember, it's an average of like 400 words that it needs to fulfill. It can easily loop because you're not asking it to do enough.
But these might be really great as guided write
Yes,
inputs
that
because
is
they're
something I want to
short like
try. I
that.
forgot about that. Yeah, so that's something I was going to experiment too. So if I'm using auto write guided, my plan is when I experiment with this is to make a document, have my story completely laid out. I will show you an example of what it should look like eventually, if I can find it real quick. Mm, just- yeah. So eventually I am going to have my beats laid out similar to this for every scene. And I would do something in guided write to put those beats there. I think that will work very well. Whereas we don't like the suggestions of guided, just put my next beat. Okay. Jameson heads to the bathroom to shower and get dressed. That would be my guided beat. Then after it writes what I want, I'm going to tell it, goes to the kitchen, his phone rings, receives a phone call about the murder, however I'm going to word it. That would be my next one. Things you can do with your beats, because I know this is a struggle for a lot of people. So the easy thing would be combining them. Because remember, the AI is looking for that hard return. It doesn't care about numbers. It looks for that hard return, that carriage return. And remember, it goes 1 beat, 2 beats, 2 beats make a stride. 1 beat, 2 beats, a stride. That's how it writes, in strides. So that's the
You can
easy
add
to
extra
do.
spaces to visualize that better if you want.
Yeah, there you go. So let's read this. So all I did was combine a couple of beats together. Oh, that's not bad. Not my style, but that's not bad. So I can see this working a lot better because this is now going to be a stride versus the 2 that were about this size. Y'all can see the difference there. So simply combining your beats is one method. Another thing you can do is, let me find, okay. So another thing you can do, I'm just going to copy this. Ah, there we go. So I can now use the laser tools on my beats.
Or quick chat, quick edit.
I can do one chord for rewrite. I can do rewrite. More descriptive and show not tell are my go-tos. But I also have a prompt that I've been using. I actually should have used it in my outline because I wanted to see if it did a better job. But I have a prompt I've been using. Give that to you. So I've been putting that in my rewrite customize, and it's doing really good. What I do when I use that, I highlight all of my beats. So we'll experiment with that. So this was just the show not tell on one beat. Don't like that. But to use that prompt, I would just highlight all of them. And y'all, the reason I want to do it to try it in my outline for my chapter guidance before beats get generated is because I have noticed that it really makes everything flow so much better. So I'm going to customize, and customize only holds up to 13 words. So all this isn't going to fit, but it still does a good job. So let's see how it flows. This is from the customize rewrite. Is it hard for you to see? Let me insert it. There we go. All right, so these are the rewritten beats. And again, I can
So
do
it's interesting to note this looks like prose, but
Mhm.
it'll be read as beats.
So I could do the same thing of combining these beats. I can do some more if I want to describe certain parts. Mhm. Yeah, don't want that. Always go through your beats. So those are some ways you can do it. Just simply combining the beats, using the rewrite prompts, using all the other laser tools. Pick what you wanted to describe. If you wanted to describe his kitchen, highlight that kitchen, have it describe the kitchen, add that to your beats, things like that. So this was 530 words. I just want to see the word count difference. If there's a major one. Doesn't seem like there will be. 573. So 43 more words. Yet I can still see this adding some depth to the scene. So those are some ways to work together. There we go. All right. Somebody asked about characters being drawn in. That is why you will always hear me preach. Get rid of the pronouns. He sits up in bed. I would still put Jameson sits up in bed to collect Jameson's thoughts before starting Jameson's day. I know it sounds stupid. It reads stupid. But guess what? I don't ever have to worry about the AI throwing something out there. And yes, it is overkill to do every single pronoun that way. But like I always say, I don't want to give it the chance to mess up. What if I just decide, oh, this pronoun is fine, and that just happens to be the one that threw the AI off? I could have just changed that in the beginning and never had to fight with it. So that's why I go through, I get rid of all of the pronouns. If y'all were in class the other day, y'all already saw this. That's not a pronoun, is it? No, that's a noun. Duh, Nicole. Oh, we need to go back to school. Yes, Tomas.
Oh, I know
So,
this one.
Okay, what's going to happen in this beat, Tomas?
They're gonna put anything from your character box in for a man.
Yep. And guess what? If your character box just happens for whatever reason to be all females, it's going to say, hey, let me go grab a man from out in the ether for all these females. So it's just going to go pull in some unknown person, unknown character, and make one for you. So you have to be specific. Gaze fixed on the victim's body. It might say it otherwise in the beats, but I'm going to tell the AI if I want it to be a male or a female victim's body. Don't like that, but I'm just looking to see from his wife, Alice. Yeah, these beats are horrible. These beats need a lot of work. interviews the first responders and any witnesses present. So if you have some ideas, if you want it to be the fire department first responders or ambulance, whatever, put that in here. So it's likely to make up some characters too for this. It'll say some random person's name and they were a witness or something. That's not a big deal if it's adding something to your story. But just pay attention, be specific, get rid of the pronouns. So in this instance, I would say, I would name that person. If it's important, which I said she saw a man, if it's not important, then that's just fluff. So yes, it better be important that she sees him and that we're noting she sees him leaning against the counter. Tomas, what's going to happen in this beat? What's likely going to happen in this beat? I don't want to say definitely.
I don't know. I was looking for that ellipsis method video someone asked for in the Discord.
In this one, Sarah and Michael are likely going to start having a conversation, or she's going to have this internal monologue about what she thinks about Michael. But as I always say, if this is a meet cute in the romance, I don't want them to talk yet. Maybe I want to drag this scene out a little bit. So I'm just going to tell the AI, oh, shoot, keep hitting that button. So I've covered all my bases now. I didn't leave a vague man for the AI to throw somebody in there. I named that person. And now to prevent the AI from doing what I think it might do with having them talk, I'm letting it know, hey, they don't know each other. They don't talk to each other. And I would keep repeating this highlighted section right here for every beat until I wanted them to talk to each other. So that's a way of covering everything. Did you find the video, Tomas?
Yeah, I'm going to copy a link over in a second.
Okay. I can
Thanks,
grab
Tomas.
too. No,
Apparently, it's on your YouTube channel.
it is. Don't worry, y'all. We will get this for you. And it's a long video, but I swear it's worth it to go through it because I think it can open up some doors for you. All right. Here we go.
There we go.
Oh, beat me to it. Darn. I'm too slow. I swear, this bigger icon, I don't know if it's distracting y'all, but I feel so awkward trying to move it. All right. So does everybody understand the importance of removing the pronouns and being very specific? Again, that can throw the AI off. And I showed y'all one way or a couple of ways. Combine the beats to make them thicker. Use the laser tools to enhance. Oh, somebody asked for plugins. Yes, so there are plugins. So if I copy this again, I'm just going to add a blank document.
Cheaper, better beats can work with the plugins inside your Beats box. Your beats in your Beats box.
Okay.
Or just whatever you have selected.
I would also say, I don't know if anyone's mentioned it yet, but if you have specific dialogue sounds, types of dialogue, vernacular or whatever, a line of dialogue in a beat is also a good idea.
Yep. All right, so I'm just going to highlight these beats and I'll run my Just Beats plugin. Just so you can see, I know John has several Beats plugins. I have this one, but I have it using different models too. So you'll see the model name and then Just Beat it. So lots of plugins to choose from. Play around with them, see which ones you like. I think Tomas has actually used this in another way too, the Just Beat It's plugin. He's getting as experimental as John, always coming up with some good stuff. But again, lately I've been using that rewrite prompt. I said it just works so well for me.
Can you try the edit? Quick edit?
You want me to do the rewrite prompt and quick edit?
Yeah.
Okay.
You may have to only do a single, no?
Quick edit, quick chat. They're free right now. But if you turn this higher quality one on, it does use credits. So keep that in mind. But it's good for heavy duty tasks. Actually, I should have done that with a quick chat, I think. You can do editing in chat. It does just fine with that. So it redlined the previous stuff. Wow. Am I in the right thing? Yeah. So this is quite a bit. I'm just trying to compare here. Actually, I like the Just Beat It plugin. I like what it gave better.
It's interesting the way your Just Beat It plugin, it's talking to the writer as opposed to writing sort of a warmed over prose. Have him do this. It's telling the puppeteer how to puppet the character.
Yeah. So I'm going to, whenever you're using this, you can reject or accept. I'm just going to reject it. Now, if I had used the credits thing and I rejected, that doesn't mean it doesn't charge me credits. So y'all keep that in mind. Oh, I didn't like it, so I didn't accept it. I shouldn't have been charged. Yes, you get charged because the AI generated stuff and it costs to generate stuff. Plugins, laser tools, rewrite prompt, quick edit, quick chat. I thought of something too when I was saying I liked this. I wanted to compare actually Just Beat It with, but I can't because it'll go to a different card. I do actually want to compare my Just Beat It with the rewrite prompt. However, the rewrite prompt came from a part of the instructions of the Just Beat It. So I'm thinking they're going to be very close. Let's go to another story. And I'm only going to another story because I know the story better, have a better vision for it, so I can work with it better here. Let's do this. I'm going to pick a scene here. We'll just start with this simple prologue. I think I'm going to generate beats for this chapter 1. And I'll show you how I actually like to work. Now, I do the things I showed y'all, especially if I don't have a vision for it, but I prefer to include my own details. What I do is I generate these beats and then I just use them as a guide. That is a useless beat. No, no. These are just some, I had a wording wrong, so it brought in a different plot point. There we go. I don't want that yet. That's going to be another chapter. All right, so all this is my prologue beats here. When I'm doing it in my own way, I just start writing how I want that scene to play out. That's all I'm focusing on. And I do it almost as if I was starting to write this story. And then I just break it up and let the AI generate prose to elaborate on everything.
Hey, Madeline, did John answer your question, or are we still missing what you're asking?
Chapter story giving 2 to 3 examples. It does that in, so I notice when I do rewrite and stuff, it will give me a couple of different versions. Is that where you're having issues? So you can change the cards for rewrite here and the cards for your auto write guided write here. Right. So I just start writing here how I want that scene to play out. I would keep doing this until I'm thinking, okay, this is a good enough section. And I would make another beat, keep writing the scene exactly how I see it playing out in my head. And like Tomas said, put dialogue in here. You can put character does something. Let's do, I can tell it, show Logan something to hide or that's not good because that's going to be show not tell. Let's see. Describe Logan's nerves on edge. If I don't have that exact thing that I want to describe it, I'll let the AI kick in and give me some ideas. And generally, it'll give me a good idea, and I'll just make that changes in edits to be exactly what I want. So you can have characters' actions here. Again, if I don't know exactly what I want, I could put that. I just know I want the Vampire King to speak harshly to him. I can put that in there. If I know what I want a character to say, I can put that line of dialogue here. I can put how another character reacts. So you can put the style guidance, you can put the scene instructions, and you can also put instructions to have the AI fill in some specific holes for you. Keep that in mind. And y'all have 2,000 words here to play with. There are very few people that I know of that max this out. I try to max out all the boxes, and most I've ever gotten here is 1,800. Play around with it.
I'm
Really make this scene yours. Go ahead.
I'm surprised by the kind of detail that you provide, like the large ornate doors grown open and all these details. You seem to take all the
Mhm.
effort away from AI.
I wanna have fun. This is my story. I want it told the way I want it, so I'm trying to find another one to show you. Yeah. This is my story. I don't wanna give the AI full control. And
No.
anything I don't tell to the AI, for instance, this is actually going to be chapter 1 in that same story. Sorry, we've made this gets you so much in class that there's all kinds of things. Y'all ignore all the random stuff that's in here. This isn't even the
Why
right chapter at this
why not
point.
why not write straight away as you are
Mhm.
at it?
And you can see also probably why I tend to lean to using auto-write more than store vital because I generally had that idea of how I want my scene to play out. I can write all of my essential scenes. What drew me to Sudowrite is my imagination completely stops at those little connecting scenes that I need. I have all the action stuff going on. I have all that written down. But my book would be very choppy if I just published that. I need those, I call them filler scenes, but all those little things that tie all the plot elements together. And that's what I always had trouble with. So that's what drew me to Sudowrite. But okay, so
Interesting.
these are all wrong. Like I said, we played with it so much in class. So this was another example I was doing. So for this instance, in this first chapter, what is actually the first chapter of that story, she stands up, she goes up to an altar. Now, if I just told it here, she's at the altar of the first Slayer, the AI is going to describe that altar the way it thinks it needs to be described. I don't want it to do that. If I know how I want it to look, I'm going to tell it. Does this need to be in the prose? Does the reader need to know, oh, it's a 2 feet wide, 4 feet tall? No, not really. That would be some horrible writing right there. But again, I don't want the AI to make something up and potentially just be like a domino effect. If it made this up right here, then that affected this plot point and all of those things just cascades that way. So that's why I tell it every little thing of how I want that scene to look. And you can see how I break it up. This is still the same scene, but as I'm writing it, I think, okay, this is enough for that first beat. This is the second beat. Now these are going to write together in a stride. I like this. So my stuff is very plainly written, how I see that scene playing out, almost as if I would be writing the story without the extra details. But now I'm telling the AI, okay, take this one I just gave you, and now let the AI elaborate on everything. Yeah, this is my preferred method. Okay, are there any questions on, sorry, I was reading chat. Are there any questions on beats? Again, the main things, get rid of pronouns, get rid of vague wording, make sure your beats are thick enough And by thick enough, we don't mean that they have to be this thick. But if I just had this sentence here, or even just 2 sentences, now I'm not asking the AI to do anything here. I'm giving it details that I want it to know for that scene, but this is nothing. This will just loop like crazy if I have my beats like that. So keep that in mind. You need to actually give it some action to do. No questions? Anything?
So something I tried doing guided write for fastest on a linked outline
Mhm.
chapter using this request for enumerated beats that I just passed to people, and it creates beats for about 100 credits as opposed to 4,000.
Oh, that's a good deal. That's a good idea. Yeah, Miracle had us do that. Let me see. We were in and that was the Suit Right After Dark. Where did I do it at? Here we go. It would also work.
Oh, with Aerobaros, that's great.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay, let's pass that.
This was what
Okay.
she gave us in the Sudowrite After Dark thing, and then it started
I've,
writing the beats here.
I've used this one several times since then. And
Mhm.
the trick here is Ouroboros. This is not going to work. If you put in fastest, it's going to give you like a jumbled mess. It'll give you like 10 beats and then go into a story. So the trick with this, and it's super cheap. And I've run it a couple dozen times already. Like Ouroboros does a great job with this.
So fastest with the one I just shared works with guided with key details of write settings. It's 500 words for a single.
And I would imagine you could do something along this lines in Guided Right too. Just that wording that, okay, I want it to have these kind of elements in it.
Mm-hmm.
See
Oh,
what
that's
you
great.
do. And yeah, now that you mentioned it to Moss too, she did say she used Ouroboros. I didn't think about it at the time, but yeah. So it's good to know that it didn't really work in the others. So
I
yeah,
love the way
there are
Ouroboros
ways.
does things.
And two, in outline, don't forget, I could have it whenever I generate my outline, I could tell it in the synopsis box I want it to generate 15 outlines per chapter, 10 beats per chapter, 15, whatever number. I can just say, hey, generate beats for each chapter. It'll generate beats right here. And then, of course, I would edit them. And then I could either copy those beats into the beats box and create my chapter from that, or I could let it generate beats from those beats. So there's lots of ways you can do this and play around with it. That's why we always say keep coming to these classes, especially with the different teachers, and see what all their methods are. Something will click into place for you.
Ingrid, did you want to ask your question or did you want to put it in chat?
I want to ask it, is there a way, let's say you just want to write not a whole chapter, but you want to do drill down and do a special scene. Maybe it's going to be a half or a third of a chapter, and you don't necessarily want the pseudo write to crank out 15 beats for this. You don't need 15 beats for this little section of a scene. Is there a way to do that? To do a drill down?
So for the entire chapter, you said, or just a portion?
No, I have in my mind's eye this. I have a special scene. I want to do this part of a chapter,
Mhm.
and is there a way to stop it from cranking out 15 beats? It may not need 15 beats. Let's say maybe it only needs 7, or it's only X amount of action is going to happen. But I want to micro drill down a scene that's not a whole chapter. Is there a way to do that in Sudowrite?
So if you click that generate beats button, it's always going to be between 12 and 15 beats.
Okay.
If you want a different number, that's when I would have it. I would create another chapter for that scene. So let's say it's part of this chapter. I would just do make it chapter 4, put whatever portion of that chapter you wanted, that scene details that you needed to work out here. And then, so you'd have a few options. Because the way I was starting it, that would actually be better if you did it the whole way again. You could tell it, hey, write beats for each chapter, and it would write beats here in the outline itself instead of paragraphs or like this. And you could just copy those into the beats box without generating.
What are you
One
in?
way.
What are you in right now? Are you in Story Bible? No.
Yes,
Huh?
ma'am. The outline box of the Story Bible. I could
Okay.
if I wanted it to, but again, this is better for the whole outlines, and it counted those as beats. So a little tweaking there. But I would put the scene details. Stop that. I would put the scene details here in the chapter, and then maybe use Marigold's method that we just looked at to where in the beats box it said right. Let me copy that for y'all.
You're gonna put that in the chat?
Yes, ma'am. And again, like Tomas said,
Thanks.
make sure you use error bars for. So you could say, hey, here, write 5 beats or however many beats you needed, and change up the wording, of course, to be what you reflect what you needed.
Yeah.
So that would be one way. So your chapter would actually be, let's just say it's chapter 4. You would have whatever those details were you needed for that scene, and then you're telling it here how many beats you want. It would give you those beats with Ouroboros, and then you could
Right.
copy those into the beats box and go from there on generating your prose.
Okay.
And then, John, would you like to speak on how she can use this something similar or to fulfill her needs using Write or Guided Write?
Maybe in guided write. I was just doing it in write settings for auto write and using that thing that I shared for key details. And I'm asking for 14 instructions, but you could ask for 6 instructions. And you could, if you don't need a cliffhanger at the end of that, get rid of that cliffhanger thing,
Yeah.
or the hook. Just give it some information. But I'm just trying to, but that's still working off of the linked chapter outline with the chapter summary. Do you think of it as more like an expand? Could you give this instruction
Yes.
in an expand and then use the beats essentially as things that you could expand or things that you could toss into the chapter generator? The weird thing about the chapter generator is you don't have to be at the bottom of your text in order to invoke it.
Uh-huh.
And you don't have to start, you can restart your chapter generator anywhere in your text. And if you
Okay.
do that, it's that first stride is not going to look up. It'll just start writing
That
from
down.
wherever you have the cursor. But when it
Uh,
does the next one, it's going to look back 250 words and keep writing.
okay.
I think there's a lot of stuff that we could do with chapter generator inside in a similar way that we use Write. But yeah, I'm thinking about how would we do it within the scope of what we're doing as opposed to putting it having to build a new chapter for just a little scene that you want to add.
Okay. I'll try that.
So I put in my Write settings, key details, I put give me a scene breakdown using story beats. Now it didn't listen, but what it gave me is pretty good.
You're using best prose, try fastest.
Yeah. I really like this though.
Yeah.
Nope.
No.
But my wording, I was playing around with the wording too, just to try to see something different. So that's probably it. It's probably just my wording. So this is what I use for like my entire story. I have a scene by scene breakdown, and then for each scene, let me see if I can do it in outline real quick. Let me go back to, because I need to start with a paragraph. Now, this is the point class is officially done. I'm going to keep recording while we're experimenting, but if y'all have some questions, please ask.
Can you give an example, Ingrid, of a kind of request, the kind of scene you would ask for?
Okay. There's this I've got this shady mafia woman that's burying bodies in her backyard. And there's a love triangle going on between the coroner in New Orleans and these 2 women that co-own this mortuary. So he's coming over to one of their houses because this woman's husband just died. So he's going to be at the front door and she's going to be hitting on him. And that's one scene. And I want to refine it. I want to get it real clean. And then I'll go to the next thing's pivot to a totally different scene, to a totally different area. So it's going to be, does that answer your question?
So that sounds like just guided right then. It's definitely what I did with the transition.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Because
I
I've
would
been
have
trying to
wanted.
do beats and I've been trying to do more beats and more micro scene. I'm going to call them micro scenes because it helps me get more focused. And rather than letting Sudowrite just run and rip and make up beats for a chapter, I'm trying to do more
If
control.
let me see if my plugin works. I was still working on the prompting.
But guided right, you're saying guided right and expand would be places to go. Check it out. And then, but then I have to, can I use Erebus in those things? I have to use Erebus over in Story Bible, right?
Erebus is only in chapter generator.
Got it. It's just a thought. I don't have to do any of this. I've just asked because it's become a thing I'm trying in other areas with other AIs.
How do I do incognito? I forgot. Incognito window.
Right click on the three dots, or just click on
Oh,
the three dots and choose incognito.
there we go. Thank you.
So expand actually worked for something like this, but again, I was asking for 14, so that's silly. So I selected something like that and told it to expand,
Yeah.
and it built something that again, you ask it for fewer.
Wow. Okay, I'm copying this. Thank you. And when I meant by hitting on him, she's trying to get him and romantically hitting
Interested.
on him.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The AI will have
Fun. I'll
no,
try
it
not to be
just
not too spicy.
dive into the deeper motivations behind why our main character continues to interact with this dangerous woman despite knowing the risks.
So
A
is
little
this kind of what
judgy,
you're
aren't we?
wanting, Ingrid? What's coming up here?
I'll copy it. I'm on my phone.
Don't you
I'm gonna
copy my story?
I'm gonna screen grab it and then I'm gonna read it later so I can. Let me go to my computer. I screen grab a lot of stuff and then I read it afterwards with better glasses.
It's just these short one sentence scene by scene breakdowns of the whole story, and then
Oh, that's good.
it continues. So this is a scene by scene breakdown of the entire story. And
Yeah.
in the next section, and this is what I still have to work on because it likes to go crazy as it just started doing. So then in the next section, it takes each of these scenes and then further breaks that down into, like you said, like micro beats. So it takes those
Yeah.
things.
And this is under history. So how the hell did you get to that? How did you get to that?
Hmm?
How did you?
She read.
This is your history, and how did you make this? How did you create this?
This is a plugin I've been doing.
Ah,
I can't-
plugin.
Yeah.
What's
And
the name of the plugin?
it's not ready because you see what it does. And this is
Oh,
Mixtral. And Mixtral does this all the time. After it reaches a lengthy output, it starts going
looping.
crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
Now I do have a GPT you can use. Nope. I don't.
An assistant,
No, a GPT created.
but that's an open AI. It's an open AI, right?
I will keep working on this. I just don't think it's going to actually work here in Sudowrite. It just.
But the GPT you're talking about is over an open AI, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it public?
Are there any questions on anything we had before I stop the recording and get out of this screen? Now I have so many screens up, I don't know where to go. So any questions on Sudowrite, what we did today? Yeah, so John, I think what I'll have to do to make this plugin work, because I already broke it down into 2 plugins. So I took my GPT instructions, tried to make a plugin. It just wasn't good because it doesn't follow that link. So I broke that down into 2 steps or 2 different plugins. But now it looks like that second plugin needs to be broke down again into 2 steps. I think that's really the only way I'm going to get it to work here, just because it likes to go crazy. All right, I am going to stop the recording. Thank you everybody for watching, but I will hang out for a few minutes for other questions and stuff.